on this subject is the Chief Executive Officer of Global Trinidad and Tobago. Please welcome Mr. Sekou Alain.
Thank you very much, Wendell. Good morning, all. Good morning, all. So happy to see so many of my public and private sector colleagues here with us today, both in the room and those joining us live on TTT or online. Today, I am honored to present on investment, one of the 5 key business areas, 2 of the 10 strategic objectives of the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, and a critical pillar in Trinidad and Tobago's economic transformation agenda. Over the past year, our approach to investment development has shifted from fragmentation to integration, accountability, and results-oriented engagement. The mandate is clear. Investment must become a major non-energy revenue generator for Trinidad and Tobago, driving diversification, employment, foreign exchange earnings, and long-term national resilience. At the center of our work is a very deliberate strategic objective: to attract sustained and significant investment for the growth and diversification of the economy, while optimizing the utilization of distressed and underutilized assets. What is different today is not simply the activity taking place. It is the alignment, the coordination, and accountability behind that activity. The ministry's structure, its agencies, and resources are being strategically integrated around common investment goals, and you'll hear about those later, and measurable outcomes. Investment promotion and facilitation are no longer being approached in silos. There are now weekly performance reporting sessions, executive reviews, cross-ministry coordination, direct engagement with the private sector, many of whom are here today, stronger policy alignment across government, and development of strategic investment opportunity packages. This integrated approach is driving investor confidence and significantly improving the country's ability to move investment opportunities from conversation to execution. To understand where we want to go, we have established ambitious but necessary targets. Our national investment targets are US $3 billion to be delivered in 2 years, starting last year, so by 2027. We also aim to drive $9 billion US dollars of investments within 5 years, and so by 2030. I'll let that sink in just a little, and we'll move on. Over the past year, several immediate measures were implemented to strengthen investment attraction and facilitation. The strategic planning and weekly performance reviews that you've heard about prior and, as I said earlier, are happening and are optimized to improve collaboration, accountability, and execution. And relationships rarely become a core priority now. We've adopted an integrated national approach being led by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism and the Minister, Global Trinidad and Tobago, which is Trinidad and Tobago's Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, the Special Economic Zone Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, Tourism Trinidad Limited, and very importantly, the Tobago House of Assembly. We have also strengthened proactive investor targeting through the prioritization and packaging of investment opportunities across the non-energy sectors, some of which you'll hear just a little later in the presentation. Also importantly, the identification of the channels where investors must be engaged, and most importantly, the engagement of the investor stakeholder networks, inclusive of the local diplomatic missions, many of whom we are here today and we've met with recently and will continue to meet with, the major accounting and legal firms that are currently facilitating investor, particularly foreign direct investor, entry into Trinidad, but significantly supporting domestic investors as well, local and international private sector stakeholders, strategic ministries and agencies. And so that proactive approach to investor engagement then leads to a proactive investor facilitation strategy, ensuring that there is significant investor lifecycle management with the use of dedicated account managers, partnership with key regulatory and investor support stakeholders, and at the same time, focused attention being placed on packaging of the underutilized assets that you will hear about a little later. Our targeting strategy was also sharpened, and so some of the traditional sectors you will see us targeting and facilitating investors in are manufacturing, agro-processing, logistics and distribution, as well as the creative industries with a particular focus on film, fashion, and music, while strategic growth sectors include iron and steel, digital service and business process outsourcing, maritime and marine services, aviation and air-related services, tourism development, of course, and we must also mention energy services, tertiary health and education, financial services, land development, which makes land utilization available for investors, and sports, entertainment, and culture. What makes the approach different is the deliberate coordination across institutions and sectors with clear execution mechanisms attached. While immediate wins are important, sustainable investment growth requires structural reform. This includes legislative modernization and improving the investment environment. Key areas currently being addressed include the Tourism Development Act, the Foreign Investment Act, the Special Economic Zones Act, as well as streamlining of the Environmental Management Authority related processes to investments. So we are identifying the relevant segments of those acts to ensure that they are aligned with foreign and domestic investment requirements, and so that we can more quickly move investors to a committed status. We are also improving accessibility, transparency, and relevance of incentives available to investors. Importantly, work is ongoing to strengthen investor guidance throughout the entire investor lifecycle, from inquiry to operationalization. This is about reducing friction, improving certainty, and making Trinidad and Tobago more competitive internationally. Because in today's global environment, investment attraction is no longer only about incentives, it is about speed, responsiveness, and confidence in execution. One of the most transformative initiatives currently underway is the national strategy around underutilized assets. Across Trinidad and Tobago, there are significant state and legacy assets that currently represent unrealized economic potential. Rather than allowing these assets to remain dormant liabilities, the ministry is actively repositioning them as investment opportunities capable of generating jobs, economic activity, and private sector participation. This initiative represents a major shift in thinking. We are moving from passive asset ownership to active economic utilization. The scale of the challenge is substantive. Billions of dollars of underutilized assets exist across Trinidad and Tobago, including land, buildings, machinery, industrial facilities, tourism assets, and strategic infrastructure. Today, we are positioning these as catalysts for investment and growth. Over 100 assets have been identified. 15 of those assets have already been shortlisted and prioritized for investment focus. And importantly, engagement has commenced with the Office of the Procurement Regulator to ensure compliance and transparency. Importantly, again, this initiative reflects genuine collaboration across government and the private sector. Key partners include the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Planning, Economic Affairs and Development, the Ministry of Public Administration and Artificial Intelligence, and of course, as mentioned, the Office of the Procurement Regulator. This level of coordinated engagement is critical if we are to move from policy ambition to implementation. So what are the next steps? Looking ahead, the next phase is execution. Key next steps upon Cabinet approval is the packaging of those underutilized assets for investment, and of course, the engagement to private sector to attract proposals through the issuance of invitations. The future direction is clear. We are building a more structured, investment-ready, and opportunity-driven environment for both local and international investors. To what end? To date, we have achieved meaningful momentum. Our current investment pipeline stands at $1.44 billion. The investment pipeline are current investors that are actively being engaged. We understand their requirements. We are connecting them to the public and private sector stakeholders that will meet those requirements and actively working to move them towards an investment commitment. That $1.4 billion of pipeline investment represents 45 projects and the potential for the development of over 5,600 jobs in Trinidad and Tobago. Very importantly, 61% of these opportunities are foreign direct investment, while 39% are local direct investment, which really demonstrates the importance of supporting domestic investment to the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism's plans. We have also moved 8 projects into committed status, primarily in the manufacturing and the hotel development sectors, so some of the more traditional sectors, while we work through the pipeline of moving persons in the new and strategic sectors into committed status. We have clear ownership on these projects, and these projects, as you can see, are valued significantly with the potential to create nearly 1,000 jobs. And as you will see, we are holding ourselves to the investment target through the investment pipeline status thermometer, as you see on your screens. The $3 billion target being, in 2 years, being the entire thermometer. What you see in the green, it is what is committed thus far, and the $1.44 billion in the pipeline that we are actively working with is engaged towards bolstering that pipeline, so the active facilitation of investors to convert that pipeline into investment commitment, and the active targeting of new investors, both foreign and local, in order to build and increase that pipeline. So as we move investors from the pipeline into committed status and then work to get them operational, we must continue through the work of the coordinated Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism to bolster that pipeline as we move along and keep ourselves beholden to that $3 billion target in 2 years, and then beyond the $9 billion target in 5 years. Sorry, Minister, I'm not trying to revise the targets in real time. What these numbers represent are increased business confidence, investor engagement, job opportunities for citizens, delivery of significant foreign exchange, and the future economic activity that will strengthen national development. What are the key takeaways today? There are 4. Firstly, Trinidad and Tobago's investment environment is actively being addressed through policy reform, institutional coordination, and targeted initiatives. Secondly, significant progress is being made in pipeline development and moving that pipeline to investment commitments. Thirdly, the integrated intra-ministerial approach is beginning to bear fruit through stronger coordination and accountability. And finally, collaboration between government, its agencies, and the private sector remains essential to achieving sustainable economic transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, the work has started, the systems are improving, the pipeline is growing, the opportunities ahead are significant. The very name of this ministry signals a policy shift to the global market. Investors are welcome, and Trinidad and Tobago is open for business. Diversification is being actioned. Thank you.
And our thanks to Mr. Sekou Alain, the Chief Executive Officer of Global Trinidad and Tobago, for delivering the presentation on growth, investments, referencing underutilized assets. Lots of opportunity, a tremendous amount of work over the last year to position the report in a manner that is comprehensive, targeted, accountable, and accurate. The ministry is committed to fostering a dynamic and enabling business environment where government's policies are informed by the private sector realities, as well as other dynamics, and where reforms are designed to unlock private sector growth across all industries. Now let's turn our attention to the sweet spot. We call it tourism. The ministry is pursuing the transformation of tourism, and presenting today on the sector tourism is Dr. Colin Neil Gosain, MP and Parliamentary Secretary of the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism. Dr. Gosain is the Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West. He is an entrepreneur who has managed his own insurance brokerage firm and has made a significant contribution to the insurance industry for over 4 decades. Over the years, Dr. Gosain has remained a political contributor, using commentary and opinions to influence national issues and public education relating to the economy and governance. This morning, we're excited for the presentation on tourism. Would you please welcome the Parliamentary Secretary, Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, Dr. Colin Neil Gosain, MP.
Distinguished guests, my line minister, Kama Maraj, government ministers, diplomatic corps, colleagues from the parliament, Joel and David, nice to see you in the front row, the media. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear that again. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Tourism has been discussed over the years in Trinidad and Tobago without having properly guided its development. The GDP contribution of the tourism sector today is approximately 6%. While it is a meaningful contribution, we recognize with proper planning, its contribution can significantly improve. It is interesting to note that the average GDP contribution of tourism in the Caribbean region is approximately 20%. The ministry recognizes this deficiency and have taken a clean sheet approach to rethink tourism. Where did we start? We defined the value and benefits desired from the tourism sector. We established a target for growth of the sector from 6% of GDP to 12% of GDP by 2030. with a projected contribution of $1.7 billion US. Let's say that again, with a projected contribution of $1.7 billion. We then developed an initial direction and plan for the development of the sector. One of the fundamentals in this plan is to define, categorize, and prioritize the key segments of the tourism sector, including details of the products and services of each prioritized segment. Priority segments have been identified. They are eco, sport, yachting, entertainment and culture, business, tertiary health and education. Having identified the tourism segments individually, together they will redefine the tourism thrust and real revenue potential, not just for businesses, but for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We have here today many business people who will recognize that to perform a business, one must have products and services to sell. Therefore, one of the first fundamentals in the rethink approach was to define the tourism products and services in detail. Eco-tourism was prioritized because an eco-tourist spends approximately 4 times more than the average tourist. It is important to know that the traditional metric of visitor arrival, though important, it is not necessarily the key matrix for measurement. It is the products and services which provide the optimum value for Trinidad and Tobago. That's the focus. The focus is now value per visitor, spending potential, employment, quality of goods and services, economic impact, national competitiveness. It also supports our other benefits: foreign exchange generation, community tourism, small, medium enterprises, international competitiveness, sustainability. Already we have mapped and categorized over 100 eco-sites across Trinidad and Tobago. 100 eco-sites, imagine that. And we are speaking about desirability. We are examining the quality and competitiveness of these sites. Do they meet the international standards? Are they safe, accessible, sustainable, and properly supported with infrastructure and services? Do they provide the visitor experience and satisfaction expected? Do they pass the desirability test? For example, what do you think about the desirability of Maracas Beach or the Caroni Bird Sanctuary? Clearly, they are not desirable and able to satisfy the criteria. These are the types of challenges that we are embarking upon to resolve the tourism development. The ministry is working very closely with the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs to identify opportunities for sport tourism. Let me take a moment to reiterate that. Sport development, etc., fall under the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs. The work that we are doing with the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs is pinning down the sport areas which can contribute to sport tourism. The collaborative team between the two ministries have identified the immediate high-value sport tourism opportunities for Trinidad and Tobago. They are aquatics and cycling. Why? Because Trinidad and Tobago already possesses international standard facilities. This is a globally significant marketable designation. The National Cycling Velodrome in Couva is the first UCI, United Cyclists Internationally, satellite center in the Western Hemisphere. It gives Trinidad and Tobago automatic credibility with the UCI, European cycling clubs, and Pan-American federations. The Eastern International Cycling Grand Prix already attracts elite cyclists from Latin America and Caribbean and Europe. But one of the biggest untapped opportunities is winter training camps. While Northern Hemisphere countries face winter conditions, as you know, Trinidad and Tobago offers year-round training weather. This is a natural competitive advantage, and right now the opportunity is not capitalized upon. Aquatics is another high-value opportunity. The National Aquatic Center is one of the best aquatic facilities in the Caribbean, and it includes a 50-meter pool, underwater video systems, and international competition capability. I'll say that again, an international competition capability. International aquatics events have already been sanctioned here. What makes this event more marketable is the ability to combine pool-based competition with open experiences in Tobago. As a plug for Tobago, the combination is unique within the region. In the yachting sector, we have already demonstrated what success through coordinated action can look like. It is useful to recognize that the yacht arrival experience declined from 2,600, imagine that, 2,600 in 2000 to less than 800 in 2025 because of the inefficiencies and challenges faced by visiting yachts. The government recognizes the immense economic potential with the yachting industry, and the ministry has been actively addressing long-standing challenges while implementing practical solutions aimed at achieving a 100% increase in yacht arrivals in year 1 and 2. A sustained growth thereafter. Our target is to achieve 3,000 vessels arrival by 2030, an increase in foreign exchange earnings by US $200 million by 2030. The ministry is modernizing the sector through technology and digital transformation. A system that is dear to my heart is the Sail Clear system, and it represents a major step forward in positioning Trinidad and Tobago as a modern maritime and trade hub, reducing the processing time for yachting arrival from 4 hours to 15 minutes. Imagine that. We have done that from 4 hours to 15 minutes. This system has already been tried, tested, and is scheduled for a launch in 2026. The launch of the new Port Health Office will reduce clearance times from 2 days to under 2 minutes. I'll say that again, from 2 days to under 2 minutes. These initiatives will significantly improve efficiency, transparency, and ease of processing for visiting vessels. We have identified the key segments which make up entertainment and culture. They are carnival, culinary, heritage, music, visual and performing arts, screen industry, film, publishing, literary, and gaming and interactive media. Have you seen entertainment and culture broken down like this before? We are working with key partners in building the product and services element for each of these segments. A perfect example is the difference in the target audience of the different types of fetes. Just take a look. We know fete. We really know fete in Trinidad and Tobago. My line minister always say, we know party better than anybody. And that is what we do best, we party. So we know fete, but there is a difference between fetes. The Soca Brain Fete has over 90% foreigners, whereas the Hillview Fete, I'm a Hillview old boy, Fete mainly has local patrons attending the fete. There's a difference understanding of tourism value, and that is what we are showing here. I hope you are seeing the examples of the rethink. I also want to re-acknowledge that the ministry is fully integrated as our work is in investment is directly linked and supported to the tourism sector. We have 9 committed tourism accommodation projects in the pipeline that will result in an estimated 577 rooms and an estimated 741 permanent employment. These projects are projected to be completed by 2027, late or 2028. The government of Trinidad and Tobago and the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism are serious about growing the tourism sector. We are very serious. Applying the tourism rethink approach is fundamental about partnership. These are not simply isolated ideas or short-term initiatives intended to create a temporary increase in visitor arrival numbers. This is a work in progress for sustained tourism sector development. This is a work in progress for sustained tourism sector development. This is about building long-term value and the benefits of the country. It is about creating tourism economy that is sustainable, competitive, community-based, investment-ready, and global relevant. I share this with you as we position tourism as a central pillar in the diversification agenda. And I want to thank you.
Special thanks to the Parliamentary Secretary, Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism. Thank you, Dr. Colin Neil Gosain, MP, for leading us on the tourism presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, the private sector organization of Trinidad and Tobago will present now on the strategic partnership between the government and private sector in pursuit of economic transformation in the non-energy sector. Launched in December 2025, the private sector organization of Trinidad and Tobago is in the room with the weekly ministerial and ministry integrated meetings that focus on all the areas of delivery that has been shared this morning between the strategic objectives 10 for the ministry and the 12 strategic objectives shared earlier as it relates to trade facilitation. We are fortunate this morning to have with us the Deputy Chairman of the Private Sector Organization of Trinidad and Tobago. Please welcome to address you, Mr. Amjad Ali.
Thank you, Wendell, and pleasant good morning to everyone. It's good to see that most people are still here, which tells me that the contents is good and keeping everybody glued and attracted to it. Good news. Honorable Minister, other ministers, Parliamentary Secretary, Permanent Secretary, fellow directors, leaders of industry, colleagues from the public and private sectors, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the PSOT, I thank the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism for convening this timely and important national conversation. Today is more than a report on activities. It is a report on momentum, partnerships, and most importantly, a report on a country that is beginning to align around a shared vision for economic transformation. Diversification has now become a national necessity, and the encouraging news is that the government and the organized private sector are increasingly moving in the same direction. No country transforms successfully through government alone, and no private sector can unlock national growth without a proper public sector framework. Real transformation happens when institutions work together with clarity, urgency, and shared purpose. This is why the relationship between the MTIT and the PSOT is so important. We are not approaching development as separate bodies. We are approaching it as partners, and that partnership is already beginning to produce very good results. Ladies and gentlemen, every successful economy aligns national policy with private sector execution. Government provides direction and confidence. The private sector provides investment, innovation, and entrepreneurship. When these four forces align, economies accelerate. Today, the ministry restated its national growth objectives. PSOT and our stakeholders are confident we can achieve these objectives working together for a common purpose. Profitable businesses are a national necessity, as GDP growth is a function of business success. The more successful our businesses become, the greater capacity for the state to collect taxes and reinvest in country development. National prosperity and private sector success must be viewed as mutually reinforcing objectives. Let me say, the private sector understands its role in helping to continue to transform the economy and, by extension, the country. And hence, part of the reason why some private sector players came together to engineer this organization, and I must commend the minister for his wisdom for seeing this happen. We want to be as effective as possible in influencing the kind of environment we want and need. Our positive impact is taking shape, as today's agenda demonstrated. Diversification is already accelerating through integrated institutional strengthening, export development, ease of doing business reform, investment facilitation, and tourism expansion. This is due in part to the relationship forged between the MTIT and the PSOT, which began in July of last year and motoring in a very positive and encouraging direction. What is emerging is more than consultation. It is a genuine working partnership between government and business focused on implementation, responsiveness, measurable outcomes, and accountability. Over the next few days, PSOT and its counterpart, the Private Sector Commission of Guyana, will work towards establishing a joint PSC Guyana PSOT Trade and Investment Working Committee designed to create a structured mechanism for identifying opportunities, resolving non-tariff barriers, and improving business facilitation. This model will be used to transform business relations with other CARICOM countries. This is how PSOT is already helping to advance practical transformation across several national priority areas, including foreign exchange earnings. We have activated our standing committees, which are operating as implementation engines. As an example, let's look at the marine sector. I remember in the past, the ministry had to engage with several bona fide representative groups, such as hoteliers and restaurants, shipping and transportation, yachting, port, marinas, and food and beverage. That approach took many months and still did not deliver a working policy. And with PSOT's participation in the ministry's Marine Service Committee, submissions from consolidated positions from related private sector players are being advanced and discussed with more cohesion, generating swifter outcomes. Closely aligned to this sector and many others is the tourism sector. Our working committee in this area has prioritized increased local content, sustainable jobs at all stages of the value chain, and of course, integration into the agricultural sector, which dovetails into the efforts of our Agri-Processing and Agriculture Committee. It cannot be overstated how critical these sectors are to foreign exchange earning and demand reduction. Our Economic Policy and Business Competitiveness Committee is mandated to enable and track quality, reliability, and innovation. De facto, this committee will act as a private sector resource economic advisory unit to the government. Through this committee, we will continue to support the empowerment and the efforts of the TTBS and other government agencies. Our SME Business Council has begun advancing work around alternative financing mechanisms, including greater engagement with equity financing, capital markets participation, and opportunities connected to the TNT Stock Exchange to help scalable businesses access growth capital beyond traditional debt structures. Thanks again to Minister Maharaj and the ministry's team for convening this vital session. Standing here, I could not help but think how it reminds me so much of a shareholders meeting, which many of us are familiar with, and certainly speaks to the minister's experience from the private sector and leveraging that experience into the public sector most admirably. Today's theme, Diversification in Action, fits our moment. Diversification is an ongoing process from sugar and cocoa to oil and gas, and now to the cross-section of industries exporting beyond our shores. To us, the real challenge is how we scale, coordinate, modernize, and translate this model into sustained national growth. As we listened today, we heard of momentum, partnership, and alignment around a shared vision for economic transformation. We are working with emerging manufacturers and service providers on joint projects to ensure they improve packaging, standards, financing access, and export readiness so they can sell more and hire more and help grow our economy. In this way, we have ensured that SMEs have a voice, as SMEs are now more than ever required to drive our economic expansion mission. Hundreds of our SMEs are already regional players, and the direction must be scaling to become international players. Our young entrepreneurs are already showing tremendous creativity and resilience, particularly across the services sector. They deserve our dedicated attention, which is already forthcoming. Our Human Capital Development Committee has been tasked to look at national manpower planning based on the projected needs of the private sector to inform academia and public sector initiatives. We are defining best-in-class approaches to leverage our world-class energy expertise, talented entrepreneurs, a highly educated population, and our untapped innovation to enhance our underdeveloped export capacity. This team is working alongside our Technology and Innovation Committee to create synergistic projects, as we all understand how technology can enable exponential transformation through fully leveraging our human capital. Together, this is how the private sector is investing in TNT, becoming a sector of excellence in the region for services and the knowledge economy. On the matter of ease of doing business, we are working with the government and multilateral partners on port and customs operating licenses, building approvals, and targeted SME financing. Our mission is to convert bottlenecks into bridges and silos into synergy. To continue this work, the PSOT has already developed a terms of reference for an ease of doing business committee, populated its membership, allowing it to convene from early next month. This will go a long way in enhancing our attractiveness for investment. The private sector will develop a baseline and standards that facilitate our expansion needs. This is the private sector doing its part to enable institutional strengthening that Minister Maharaj spoke about. And I could share a simple story as we're speaking about ease of doing business. You know, in India, some years ago, a gentleman died and he left his wife and a son behind. And they approached the ministry for pension. And after about 6 months, they kept going every week. The person at the ministry said, let's go for a chai, let's go for a tea. So when they went, he sat down and he told them, the file is on my desk. It has to go to the supervisor's desk for approval, but it needs wheels. And that is what we are hoping to do to stop the wheels with the ease of doing business, where everything becomes predictable. The recent IMF Article 4 report underscored the need to continue to drive export capacity through stronger private sector-led growth, investment, efficiency, export competitiveness, and digital transformation. These are precisely the areas where organized collaboration between government and the private sector becomes critical. Collaboration in the form of structured public-private partnership will assist the government in unlocking the value of underutilized and stranded assets, which we know are many, and we heard Siko speak about. Across the world, modern economies increasingly leverage this model through IPO structures to mobilize capital, broaden ownership participation, improve operational efficiency, and accelerate development outcomes. We possess substantial untapped assets whose value can be expanded through inclusive investment models that allow citizens, institutional investors, entrepreneurs, and the wider private sector to participate meaningfully in national growth and wealth creation. PSOT also supports such an approach for agencies involved in investment promotion, export facilitation, and destination marketing. Internationally, investment promotion agencies increasingly leverage private sector participation networks and commercial intelligence to accelerate investor confidence and market responsiveness. Competition for investment is intense. Investors today are not looking only at incentives. They are looking at responsiveness, approval timelines, digital efficiency, and coordination across agencies. The state cannot singularly drive investment in an increasingly competitive global environment. Investment attraction must become a country effort. Therefore, PSOT continues its dialogue with the ministry around private sector participation in investment promotion, export facilitation, and market development to ensure global TT, TTL, and TTAL succeeds in their mandate. This aligns with regional and international best practice, where structured collaboration has contributed to reform and economic expansion. With these straightforward approaches, diversification in action is not just a conference theme. It continues as a long-term national operating model built on execution, collaboration, competitiveness, and confidence. Trinidad and Tobago has the talent, institution, entrepreneurial depth, and regional influence to continue on its transformation journey. This experience with the Ministry of Trade, Investment, and Tourism has proven that there can be cohesive engagement between the public and private sectors. We are encouraged to meet and develop similar relationships with all ministries, state enterprises, and agencies, with the Economic Activity Cluster, as well as continuing engagement with multilateral agencies and other related stakeholders. What is required now from all of us is a transformation mindset that leverages our increasingly expanding, diversified economy. Minister, perhaps next year's theme could be our transformation roadmap. Just a suggestion. While on the topic, PSOT practices what we preach. Internally, in our first 6 months, PSOT has transformed from a long-standing idea into an active and well-resourced entity. Our committee's work reflects the depth of expertise and volunteerism across our private sector and shows we are prepared to participate. I issue a call to the wider business community to move beyond observation, move beyond commentary, and become active participants in the national economic transformation. To those who have joined the PSOT, we thank you, and to those on the periphery, we welcome you to join us as we chart our way for enhanced economic and social transformation. Join our implementation committees and be part of this action-oriented movement. Allow me again to thank our first adopters who joined the PSOT, as well as our board and executive team, as we are on a pathway for national good, and we remain grateful for your support. And if I could just underscore what Candace said earlier, this experience for us by the private sector has been profound. I was the TTMA president in 1996, that's a long time ago. So I've been engaged with government for a long time. What we are witnessing now spells very good for the future, because I'll tell you, in all of these meetings, the minister, the parliamentary secretary, and the permanent secretary are present doing the work, and I think they deserve a round of applause. Allow me to acknowledge the tremendous contribution of our outgoing CEO, Kelvin Mahabir, whose leadership, commitment, and steady engagement helped guide the PSOT during its critical formative period. We are pleased that he will continue to serve on our committee, ensuring continuity as the organization continues to evolve and grow. At the same time, we warmly welcome our CEO-designate Rudolph Hanamji, whose passion for national development, private sector mobilization, and strategic collaboration positions him well to help lead the PSOT into its next phase of growth and impact. Together, this transition reflects continuity, stability, and the sustained momentum required to advance this important national agenda. As we all reflect in today's discussions, we must congratulate the Minister and the Ministry for this bold approach and for being open to including the private sector in a strong and meaningful way, and encouraging us to be independent in our feedback and assessments. When government and the private sector move beyond consultation and begin executing together, the outcomes are enormous and beneficial to all. When SMEs begin scaling into bigger exporters, when investment moves into productive sectors, when quality becomes globally competitive, when institutions become faster, more coordinated, and more responsive, when underutilized assets begin generating opportunity and national value, when citizens begin participating more broadly in ownership, innovation, and enterprise, that is our goal. That is where we are heading, and that is real transformation. I thank you.
And our thanks to Mr. Amjad Ali, Deputy Chair of the Private Sector Organization of Trinidad and Tobago, for endorsing, confirming, and validating the involvement of the private sector with the government, specifically in alignment with the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism strategic objectives. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving now into the question and answer segment, and for those who have contributed with their questions during the course of the morning, first, my thanks to you. One of the aspects of our program will include an ongoing response mechanism following this engagement and via the ministry's social media pages, etc. Many of these segments that have been presented this morning will form part of another set of messages and ongoing reminders of where the ministry is at. It's not every day that you get the full docket of the work that has been taking place at a ministry with many portfolios under its assignment. And it's not every day that you'll find the minister and his team ready to take questions as well. So I'll invite all on stage now, particularly Mr. Sekou Alain, Mr. Neville Alexander, Ms. Candice Lakensingh, and we'll be joined by ministers shortly. And thank you all for your contributions and your questions thus far. Fear not, for those of you in the room, we will leave at 12 noon. Fear not, for those of you on TV, we'll be gone by 12 noon as well. So thank you in advance. Now, by all means, relax. It's easy for us. Here we go. This is more like 20 questions, guys. So enjoy. Yeah, there can be no wrong answer. You do not have the opportunity to phone a friend. Here we go. So, a question on investments. How much of your targets are in the revitalization plan or are related to government's revitalization plan?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Wendell, and whoever posed from the audience. The targets cover investment, private sector investment, both foreign and local, in the non-energy sectors that we would have mentioned in the program: aviation, manufacturing, logistics, etc. My understanding is that the revitalization program covers, by need, public investment. We are focused on private, foreign, and local investment across non-energy sectors.
Thank you. Here we go now. I'm just going through, sorry, there's some responses that came as well. In order to successfully implement the tourism policy, what is the ministry's intent with Tourism Trinidad as an agency?
With respect to Tourism Trinidad Limited, as I mentioned in my presentation, we're working as one team. So we're looking at Tourism Trinidad Limited and looking at that institutional reorganization as to how we fit and align with our objectives. And we're plotting that right now. So all agencies within the ministry, all divisions and units are contributing to these 10 strategic objectives, and we are aligning ourselves with those.
Okay, thank you. Foreign exchange. What measures are there in place or being put in place to treat with the hardship of accessing foreign exchange?
Tough questions. So what needs to be made clear are the roles and responsibilities surrounding the treatment of foreign exchange. At the ministry, our role is more in line with foreign exchange earnings. We are mindful that, yes, there's an issue, there's an access issue, but we are tackling the issues from the point of view of making available more into the wallet, into the national wallet, so that the issue of access is made a little simpler, right? As one of the few ministries that actually earns revenue, our focus is to really help get our exporters out there so that our forex earning potential is greatly improved. That way, we have more to share with everyone.
Thank you. There's another tourism question. With respect to the ministry's 10 strategic objectives, why is tourism not featured within the 10 strategic objectives?
Tourism is in fact featured within the 10 strategic objectives. It contributes to our forex objectives as well as our investment objectives. And as you've seen from the presentations delivered by our parliamentary secretary here today, we take tourism very seriously and the development of that sector very seriously. So there's a focus on the development of the tourism sector and how it contributes.
Thank you. Statistical data is imperative to make informed decisions. import and export data is available from the ports and customs, but this data is, they say, inaccessible. What are we doing to make this information available without compromising market-sensitive data, information such as major trade lanes and commodities should be shared? This will allow stakeholders and shipping and maritime service providers to make more informed decisions. Would this be possible?
So let me just say that because we have been engaging with the private sector so often throughout the last year, this question is not a surprise. The private sector have also, put this question to us. In terms of data and availability and ensuring that the sensitive data is not shared, we have our TT BizLink platform on which the Trade and Business Information Portal provides that particular data. Through our ITC, International Trade Center, trade maps, such as the Export Potential Map, that platform will provide that data as well. We're also executing the Port Community System, of which the Maritime module was launched, and that will allow us to map shipping lanes, and we can match those shipping lanes against the commodity data, and then without sharing any sensitive data, provide that data to the private sector. And as you heard through the presentation by Alison in the Ease of Doing Business, the reform would include AI and how we use AI to map data analytics. So all of this combined would help with that issue.
Thus being able to remove sensitive data but still have a dashboard that is available for the general business shipper, etc. Okay. We know that foreign exchange stakeholders, we know that foreign stakeholders entering an unregulated real estate market spend months performing exhaustive due diligence just to verify local partners and property assets. This seems to be directly undermining our national goal of speed to market. How can Global Trinidad and Tobago and the Ministry, by extension, collaborate with regional business chambers to create a unified, verified registry of commercial and real estate assets and local joint venture partners? I'll stop at that if you want to answer at this point.
It's actually a quite important question. One of the main areas that the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, as well as Global Trinidad and Tobago, is focused on is ensuring that we have the appropriate spaces and places for investors to be able to execute on their investments. And part of their due diligence process is looking at land, building, etc., that they would have access to. You would have heard me talk about the underutilized assets. So one of the intent there is to package some of those underutilized assets to make land available for investments. And there are specific sectors, particularly manufacturing, digital services, where we've identified and prioritized to ensure that we work on seeing that economic benefit come from public assets and joint venturing with private sector to make those available. As well, Global Trinidad and Tobago does maintain a real estate database of existing office, commercial, and land space that is existing now. And through the Ministry of Trade, Investment, and Tourism, we coordinate with other bodies that have access to that land. The extent to which we can further collaborate and we can further partner with private sector to ensure that that investor due diligence process, as described, taking months, is minimized through, I believe what was suggested was a database. We can look at the database that we have now, working through our public and private sector partners to ensure that that database is verified and that we can make it easily available to investors during their due diligence process. So it is a great suggestion, and we look forward to working with private sector to do so.
Thank you. Minister, we'll invite you on at this time. There is going to be a question once you're settled on stage. In the meantime, is the $2 billion US redistributed to banks in Trinidad and Tobago? I asked the question as I received it. Please don't blame the messenger.
Well, what I can say is that we try to earn it. The distribution, the allocation, that's elsewhere, all right? So once we can do our job well and earn that $2 billion, I think we would have done well to make it available? Who and what elsewhere?
Thank you. May not have been the exact answer that you wanted to hear.
No, I mean,
Minister?
you know, I don't think people appreciate 20% of the foreign exchange that comes to the country goes to the central bank. 80% goes to the commercial banks. So if you are 2 billion in export earnings, will come into the commercial banks. That's a natural place it comes into. I don't think we need to
Elaborate
further.
Business is business. There's a question specifically that focuses on security, national security. For both tourism and investment, confidence in national safety and security is critical. Amongst the identified cross-ministerial collaborations, strategic engagement with the national and homeland security ministries was notably absent. How is crime being addressed strategically to support investment and tourism plans?
Okay, so I think you would appreciate that the government has made addressing the crime situation a top priority. From the inception, we split the Ministry of National Security into Ministry of Homeland Security and Ministry of Defense just to emphasize the focus on addressing the crime situation. It is and continues to be a priority, and we are seeing a decline in an improvement in the situation, and I think you'll continue to see that in the coming months.
Thank you, Minister. The final question, so you're getting off in good time, had to do with the 100 underutilized assets, or thereabouts, of which 15 have been identified for investment, for going forward, etc. Is the ministry constraining its focus to only those 15, or is that just the first phase or first tier, as they say, of other of the investment of other underutilized assets?
Good question. That is a first tier. We have quite ambitious targets, 3 billion in 2 years, 9 billion in 5 years. And so naturally, we would prioritize those assets that we believe are most packageable as investments in the short term. Those are the 15 that we're looking at, and there may be a subset of that would be issued in the first instance, obviously in collaboration or with going through Office of the Procurement Regulator. Okay. Beyond that, we continue to look at other assets that we can package for private sector involvement.
Great. Thank you, each of you. Perhaps just a closing sentence or two in light of your contributions and the integrated work of the ministry. Mr. Alain, I'll start with you.
Global Trinidad and Tobago, as Trinidad and Tobago's Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, looks forward to continuing to coordinate it through the Ministry of Trade, Investment, Tourism, and working with private sector in issuing and packaging the investment opportunities, facilitating investment, and converting that investment into real economic opportunity through investment commitments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Alexander, from a trade facilitation standpoint.
Right. Firstly, to exporters, we want to let you know that we have taken a new approach. We want to hear from you. We want to support you. So we have a vehicle through which you can engage the ministry. I invite you to join the Peace Hut in the first instance and come, let us support you attain your targets to the consumers, buy local, build Trinbago.
Build Trinbago. Thank you, sir. Ms. Lakhan Singh, you are passionate about strategy, and that's one of the areas of your portfolio.
So with respect to the 10 strategic goals that I've presented, the ministry has presented how it is invested and how it is committed to achieving those goals, all of the strategic objectives that we've set out. We would like to invite you, the stakeholders, everyone in this room, everyone that's listening, to partner with us to achieving these goals. This is how we will attain our targets and succeed in terms of diversification of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Ms. Lakhan Singh. You can applaud by all means. They say you must save the best for last. Well, he was the best at the start by welcoming you to this morning's presentation. And may I acknowledge the presence of the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries who joined us during the course of the proceedings. Minister, thank you for making time and being with us today. And to each of our respective ministers that are here, including the Minister of Labour, Micro and Small, and the list goes on, yes, and all others that are also present. And as well, our representative of Tobago, and specifically Tobago East, right? Sun rises in the east. And thanks, of course, to the other representatives. For the closing of this morning's Year 1 report from the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, I give to you once again the Minister. Please welcome Senator the Honourable Satyakama Maharaj.
Ladies and gentlemen, today you heard about objectives, strategies, reforms, implementation, and performance. But I want to leave you with one simple question. What is different now? What is different is that we have moved from fragmentation to coordination, from reaction to strategy, from talk to execution, from insulation to partnership, and from simply managing the economy to deliberately transforming it. From the beginning, I made it clear that this ministry could not succeed alone. Government does not create economic growth by itself. The entrepreneur creates growth. The investor creates growth. The exporter creates growth. The manufacturer creates growth. The private sector creates growth. The role of government is to facilitate growth, remove obstacles, coordinate national effort, and create the conditions for success. This is why one of our earliest priorities was encouraging the establishment of the private sector organization of Trinidad and Tobago. And you heard a presentation from Mr. Amjad Ali. Because transformation requires partnership and alignment. For the first time in a very long time, this ministry is operating with clear objectives, structured implementation, measurable accountability, coordinated execution, and disciplined performance management. That is different. For the first time, we are strategically focused on expanding exports, facilitating investment, transforming tourism, improving the ease of doing business, strengthening local enterprise, improving national quality standards, and unlocking underutilized and stranded national assets. That is different. For too long, people spoke about transformation without execution. Today, you heard not only about plans, but about systems already being implemented, reforms already underway, and measurable action already taking place. That is different. And perhaps most importantly, for the first time in a very long time, there's an alignment between government and the private sector, alignment between strategy and execution, and alignment around national mission of economic transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, none of this would be possible without leadership that understands the importance of vision, coordination, execution, and national partnership. I therefore wish to recognize the inspired leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, Kamala Prasad-Bisesa, whose support and national vision continue to provide a foundation and direction for this transformational process. That leadership is different. Transformation does not happen overnight. But nations change when vision becomes action, when planning becomes execution, and when people begin to believe again. We are rebuilding that belief. We are building momentum. We are building a more competitive, more productive, and more resilient Trinidad and Tobago, not through slogans, not through politics, but through vision, through partnership, through discipline, through execution, and through performance. This transformation process has begun, and we will continue to report to the population openly, transparently, and accountably as we move forward together. I also wish to thank all of you for being here today, members of the diplomatic corps, the private sector, our stakeholders, partners, members of the media, and the national community for your continued engagement and support. I also extend sincere appreciation to the staff of the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, and all those who worked to organize today's presentation and support the ongoing work of the ministry. Because the future of Trinidad and Tobago will not be built by chance. It will be built by leadership, partnership, discipline, and the determination of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not waiting for the future. We are building it. Thank you very much.
Right you are. By all means, go right ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, our thanks to the Minister of Trade, Investment and Tourism for closing this morning's presentation. For those of you in the room, please hold your seats just for a second. Don't rush yet. Hold up. And may I take this opportunity to thank all who have been joining us online and those viewing on national television for participating. Of course, this entire program is now available for your review. And within the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, there'll be further interaction based on questions raised in the room and questions coming from the general public that we will facilitate as the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism embarks on this next year of continuous engagement with its stakeholders. On behalf of the Minister, the executive team, and all of the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, we thank you for viewing and wish you an onward good day.